and welcome to Building and Navigating, which is short for Building Resilience and Navigating the Journey with Multiple Sclerosis. So, in previous episodes, I have given you kind of a snippet of different health traumas, but specifically surviving a pulmonary embolism a few years back leading up to my MS diagnosis. So this video, I'm going to kind of delve a little bit more into some of the events that happened leading to my diagnosis. I think this one in particular, because it's very heavy, so I may have it in parts, I'm not too sure. But let me get started. So I think a lot of things have happened in terms of not feeling okay, and just my system being off. And it's kind of weird because I was still in the middle of recuperating from the pulmonary embolism that I had experienced a few years back. And luckily it had dissolved completely. But the aftermath of that was, okay, the blood clot has completely dissolved, but the aftermath was difficult. So I still had difficulty walking. I wasn't able to walk like regular pace, I was not using a cane at all. Like my pride did not let me. And I didn't even think it was an option, to be honest. So what I would do is like hold on to the walls. And I switched up my physiotherapy. I think I mentioned in a previous video that I had physio I think 3 times a week. And this was with a government funded program. And the only reason I was eligible was because I was hospitalized, but that program was only open to seniors at a certain age group, or you've experienced some sort of accident or medical trauma. And the only reason I was eligible was because I landed in the hospital and from my pulmonary embolism, and I was hospitalized for a few days. And so I did the physio for a few months and whatnot. And then I think I forgot to mention, all this is costly. I think I'll do another video about just medical expenses. But I was doing physio. I started my chiropractor sessions, and the chiropractor sessions were with a holistic chiropractor where it's not your typical chiropractor where you're hearing the bones cracking. No. It was a very holistic approach to just healing and aligning my spine and trying to, create a little bit more balance in my system. And so a few months later, I don't recall exactly when, but I started with a different physiotherapy clinic. I think in the States you guys call it physical therapy, but it's practically the same thing. And so I started with a different physiotherapy clinic, and I was just, I searched for them, I looked for them. I really liked their approach to just having a holistic way of supporting their patients. And it wasn't just like, okay, this is what you need and let's do it. It was more like learning a little bit about my background, what I had experienced, and making sure that the treatment plan that was created for me was in alignment with exactly what I needed, and not just being, tossed over to any physiotherapist. So I really appreciated that process. Until this day, I have that same physiotherapist. He's amazing. And he specializes with like vertigo and especially balance issues. So that was my huge challenge, which was balance, gaining mobility, strength, tolerance, and endurance. So just having a game plan of what I was looking to achieve and just taking baby steps and then building off of that was something that I focused on with physio. So fast forward, I'm doing physio, whatnot, and I travel. And, I'm picking up, work in terms, I'm a proposal writer. So I'm picking up, contracts here and there at my own pace, because at this point, like, I wasn't so focused on getting back to work, but I do enjoy the work that I do. And I wanted to ensure that, I'm still practicing in my mind, and just try not to lose it, to be honest with you. I really love to be challenged cognitively and not just being there. Like, for me, I die mentally if I'm not reading or trying to like do some problem solving. So as a proposal writer, just crafting and architecting these documents really helps me to heal mentally, and also, of course, provide this service to my clients. So fast forward, I travel to see family and just chill. And I'm going to give you like the fast tracked version of what happened to me. I had a submission due for a client, and this was September 28th. Keep this date in mind because it's actually quite significant. I was at a cafe, lovely cafe, completed a proposal, and I was on my way home. And it's not like I was completely fine, but something was off in my system, but I couldn't put my finger around it. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but something was off. And so I had an appointment with my husband, with another individual. And my legs were like feeling like funny, like from my waist down. It was just like starting to feel like numb and tingling and just heavy. But I was thinking, I'm fine. So, we finished that appointment, and that night I woke up literally in a panic. Like, it was 3 a.m. I couldn't move. Like, it's like I'm a deep sleeper and a light sleeper. It's difficult for me to sleep, and have quality sleep. So when I have a good night's rest and a deep sleep, I really enjoy it. But I'm also a light sleeper, so I'm awakened easily. But this one, it really got me out of my deep sleep, and I panicked. I told my husband, I can't move. Like, my legs are funny. They're tingling. They're numb. It feels funny. And the first thing I thought to do was to call my mom. I'm like, what should I do? I froze, but I was like, what should I do? So I called her. I'm like, Mama, like, I can't feel my legs. They're numb. They're tingling. What should I do? And then she gave me the advice, like, okay, if I'm feeling like uncomfortable enough that it's bothering me and I can't go back to bed, I should definitely go to the hospital. So shout out to my mom for that advice. And then shout out to my best friend, because she gave me a contact or not a contact, but the address of a private hospital or clinic in Ghana. And I always had it in the back of my mind that, hey, just in case I ever need to go to a hospital and I need like urgent care, I'll have it in the back of my mind. So shout out to my best friend for this, because I quickly looked in my notes. So guys, like, write things down all the time, because you just don't know when you're going to need this information. It might be like 2 years later, maybe 10 years later. Write it down, because when you're in the midst of like an emergency, sometimes you can't think straight. But if you know that, hey, I have like a contact of so and so, I have it somewhere, I just can't remember the name, just refer to it. So I looked at my notes on my phone, saw the name and the address, Google mapped it, got an Uber, and we went to the clinic. And when I had arrived, I told them what I was experiencing. I was like, I can't feel my legs, it's tingling, I feel like pins and needles, it's numb, this is so random, and it's like, it's getting worse by the hour. So I did some blood work. just to rule out certain things. It showed that I had low vitamin D levels, and then also low B12, which is associated with tingliness. So I was sent home. So I went home earlier that morning, and I told my sister about this. And so we decided, okay, maybe I just need to relax. Maybe I'm just overworked, but it's not true because I was on vacation. I wasn't really overworked, but I was like, okay, maybe I need to just relax and just take the day. So she booked a massage therapy for me, or a massage therapist session for me. And I chose like the 90-minute session. I've never done this before. Typically like 60 minutes or 50 minutes is sufficient. But I was like, I want a deep tissue, hardcore massage for my whole body, but especially my legs. And so I did that, and it still wasn't going. The feeling was getting worse. We went to like this yogurt bar, and it was so nice. And I was like wearing a nice kaftan, long, wavy. And I was just laughing because I was like, first of all, it's comfortable, but no one knows how I am suffering as I'm walking. It's like I had drop foot. So I was like literally like flapping my feet on the ground, but you couldn't tell because my feet were covered or my legs were covered. Then I made another errand because I wanted to purchase something for one of my clients, for him, his wife, and his kids. And I was like, I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to run these errands, so let's do it quickly. Like the pain and the suffering is just escalating. So I'm like, no. When I get home, I'm like, I'm not okay. So my sister and I were like, I was like, I need to go back to the clinic because it's getting worse and it's rising to like my torso. So, I contact my husband and I'm like, meet us at the clinic. Sorry, hospital. It's a hospital. So meet us at the hospital. We're not going to be home. And, I just described to him, I made it urgent because at that time he was also running errands. So we're in the waiting room and whatnot. And then I talked to the attending physician at the time. And I expressed to him that, we were at the hospital the night before, or actually early in the morning. And this is what had happened. I couldn't feel my legs. My feet are tingly. My entire leg, like I can't feel anything. And it's getting worse and it's rising up to the point where I was actually now in a wheelchair at the hospital. And so he did like a test. He took like, I don't know, I don't think he had the appropriate instrument that they usually do to do this test, but he took a pen and he just like did this with like at the sole of my feet. And I didn't feel anything. I knew he was doing something, but I didn't feel anything, right? And so, long story short, he's like, let's get you an MRI. I was like, okay, cool. So, if you know an MRI, like scan, it's very like, if you're a claustrophobic person, this is your worst nightmare. I'm not claustrophobic, but I don't like being in enclosed spaces. Like I will start to freak out. But this was necessary. It was going to get us some answers. So, I did an MRI and he didn't tell me exactly what was happening, but he's like, we need to admit you now. We need to admit you now. So I'm here being a diva because I'm like, I need my pajamas. I need this and this and this and da 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 da. And not thinking like, oh, well, like, why do you have to admit me, right? He's like, no, we need to check this and this because we're seeing some things in the scan. And I mean, obviously it's too early for him to diagnose anything because you need to have differential diagnosis. So to rule out certain different things. Long story short, I'm I'm so grateful, and I get emotional talking about this because he's the first doctor. I just had a flashback of something that I had experienced in terms of medical gaslighting. So I think I will follow up in another episode about that experience. But he's the first doctor to actually listen to what I was saying and do something about it, and to be like, let's do an MRI, because what I'm saying and and it's not like it was a one-time thing. I told him, like, I was just here the day before, like less than 24 hours, and these are certain things I've been experiencing. And so he's the first doctor who took me seriously. I'm not going to disclose his name just for privacy purposes, but I'll always be indebted and grateful to him, because when you are saying there's a problem, something's wrong, and no one is taking you seriously, I'm not looking for answers immediately, but I'm looking for someone who will take me seriously enough to be like, let's look into it and go from there. And he's the first doctor who did that. So yeah, I'm actually going to pause this and have another episode or another part to this series, because it's heavy what happens next. Stay tuned.